Hey everyone, it's Ivan over here on TFBTV, here to bring you my top 5 kind of pieces of gear, accessories from Triggrcon 2019. Well, Triggrcon being kind of a smaller show, not necessarily one where a lot of companies are releasing new products, there is always an exception. To that end, Atibal released their SAP Small Ass Prism. Exactly what it sounds like. Really small, little prism optic, one power. And personally, I really like prism optics, especially with my eyes. I find them much more usable to me than, like any type of red dot, any type of projected little emitter. Being able to have that really clean etched reticle, I think it's awesome. And this one it's cool, it's really small. The illumination on the side, you can turn it up and it gets pretty bright. Does a really good job of illuminating that reticle, and with it, pretty much use it just like you would a red dot, except to my eye, it's way cleaner. I mean, it's laser etched. And you get away from issues with batteries. Like, yes, battery can go down, you no longer have illumination, but you still have this really nice, clean etched reticle. This one that I saw is the 2nd gen. They're gonna have probably their 3rd generation, which is actually gonna come to market, like 3rd iteration of the prism that they're working on. And yeah, it should be really cool. I saw some of the kind of CAD drawings for it. It's gonna kind of get cleaned up, some of the lines. And I imagine the reticle might change a tiny bit, but overall, excited to see that come to market. Ultimately, as far as price-wise, it's gonna have MSRP of around $329 and should be available kind of towards the end of 2019, probably November, December-ish. Another cool offering at Triggrcon I got to see was the B&T USW 320. Basically, it is a grip module for the P320, but turns into a pretty awesome little SBR. Rather than trying to like jam your pistol into some sort of like chassis type thing, it's literally replaces the grip module, has a stock that folds to the side, like locks in, and then you depress a button, pops out, lock it back, and it's pretty cool. You can get really, really stable with that thing. And while it may not be for everyone, I think it's a cool offering. And I think what's actually really cool about it is, in conjunction with Sig's P320 models, is the fact that you have a grip module. So yes, like once you essentially turn your serialized trigger package into an SBR, like it's an SBR forever. But the fact that you can actually move that back and forth and use it in a pistol still, if you don't want to actually use it in that grip module as like an SBR, you can do that. Versus when you go down the road of like the Glock one, like you're committed, you now have this SBR Glock, which is cool, it'd be fun, but it allows you to actually transport that trigger package back and forth into different frames depending on how you want to carry it. The B&T USW 320 is retailing for approximately $325. And the grip on it is basically a full-size grip. So any of your like compact, like 15-round magazines won't work, but all of your full-size, like 17 or 21-round magazines, they'll all work with it. Another pretty cool offering I saw at Triggrcon was by Radian. A lot of people use Radian charging handles as well as selector switches on their ARs. I think they make a great product, like stuff's really smooth, works great, functions well. To that end though, when it comes to kind of training across platforms, by way of example, a lot of people use Smith & Wesson M&P 1522s for like high volume training. Because I mean, you can buy like a case of 5,000 rounds for a fraction of the price of buying 5.56 or 223. And to that end, I think it's pretty cool. With the 1522, the M&P, there's not a lot of cross compatibility with respect to kind of some of the internals in there. And so Radian actually has a turnkey package with 1, their Raptor charging handle, and then 2, their selector switch. So you can basically take your M&P 1522, swap these out if that's where you're running on your actual like duty gun, like your real gun, and be able to go get really good reps in and have that same kind of tactile feel whether you're working the selector or the charging handle. I think it's really cool that Radian's done that. Just give people another option of kind of cloning out their actual duty gun so that they can get really good reps with ultimately pretty cheap ammunition. You can pick those up right now They run about $75. You can find them over at Radian. If you're familiar with Bobro, you probably know their mounts. They essentially make all kinds of different optic mounts, cammed, kind of throw a lever, gets it really nice and secure on your rail, but I actually got to check out one of their kind of new flashlight mounts. And while it sounds kind of mundane, it's actually really cool if you have a need for something like it. To that end, they have both a fixed one as well as a QD, and it is ultimately a Imlach adjustable flashlight mount. So the way it works is it goes into an Imlach slot. You can either like bolt it on if it's not QD, or QD is pretty cool. Basically uses this piece, you rotate it through and it wedges itself into whatever Imlach slot you're on. And the way it actually wedges itself, it doesn't really matter how close to spec whatever rail you're using, i.e. some people have really thin like aluminum rails, some of your Magpul stuff is kind of thick. There's a huge variance, but the way it actually wedges in doesn't really matter. As long as it's Imlach, it is probably gonna wedge itself in really tight, won't have any slop. It's pretty neat the way that's designed. Then past that, it actually has it to where your scout light essentially moves on a hinge, and you get it to kind of wherever you want, and you're rotating two different screws, two different directions from either side. So if it tries to move in any direction at that point, once you have it tight, it just wants to tighten down even more. So once you have it set, it won't move for you. Which this, albeit kind of niche depending on your actual application, but it's really nice. What it allows is flexibility for if you're running a suppressed rifle, you can actually bring your flashlight away a little bit so you don't have half your light just like bouncing off of your can. Or if you don't have a can on there, you can actually swing it all the way as close as you want up to your rail, keeping it really low profile. Or depending, again, what you're running, if you have like a D-ball or a maul running some sort of laser, you can actually back it off even further so that it clears that if it's running up on like say 12 o'clock position on your rifle, which it's pretty cool being able to have those options. And lastly, got to check out the Mark 19s by Combat Flipflops. You're like, wait, like grenade launcher? Almost. They're shoes. If you're unfamiliar with Combat Flipflops, they actually do a lot of really cool stuff. Basically bringing industry into kind of impoverished places, and with that, helping people actually get ahead. And to the end of actually kind of reinvesting a lot of the money they make into meaningful ways. Like for one, putting women through school over in Afghanistan. The idea being the long game, and yeah, like through education, kind of pushing out the whole extremist side of it. They're doing a lot of really good work over there. And they actually came out recently with some shoes. They're Mark 19s. Pretty cool shoes. Even if for no other reason than, honestly, the irony of it, which I very much love. So their shoes are actually made down in Bogota, Colombia. And where do they get the rubber for it? Really sticky, like aggressive sticky rubber. You can probably rock climb in these things. They're pretty cool. And they're actually this tiger stripe rubber. Like they're out there, the guys are like laying batches of this like different colored rubber to get this tiger stripe pattern. Every single one's gonna end up being different. And the rubber is actually coming from the rubber trees, which they have planted to rehab all of the coke plantations down in Bogota, Colombia, or and thereabouts. So inside name for it is basically their Colombian Bam Bam rubber, which I can definitely appreciate. But ultimately they're making shoes as well as all kinds of other things, and they're a company that actually, I think, does some really good work. And it's cool when they come out with new products, and yeah, kind of seeing how they go about both sourcing materials and ultimately executing different products. That right there wraps up my top 5 from 2019 Triggercon. If you get the opportunity, I'd encourage you to come out next year, 2020, to Triggercon. It's one of the few conventions where you can actually come, like it's not just industry or something like that, like SHOT Show, but you can actually come, go run into cool people, check out all kinds of cool different companies, all different products lines. I mean, honestly, put hands on stuff you probably otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to do. The other really cool thing about Triggercon is you can actually get access to the range day. So again, not an industry only event. And you can basically go out there and put hands on and shoot kind of a lot of different stuff. They have a lot of different vendors bringing some pretty cool stuff out to the range, and overall it's a really good time. And yeah, get to meet new people, see different products, and just kind of cruise around. It's a lot of fun out there. But thanks for joining us over here on TFBTV, and see you next time.